Adrian, do you have any final thoughts on Balloon Kid?
I mean, it's pretty much almost as if you made an entire game just out of Mario's swimming physics. And, you know, that aspect of the game I did enjoy a lot. They do some neat things even with just getting you to, like, let go of your balloons, and some slight platforming that they actually introduce more towards the end there.
Yeah.
There are a couple of rough spots, as I think we all already know and have likely gone through in our own individual level presentations. But overall, I did enjoy it.
All right.
First four or five are definitely on the easy side, but then the game picks up more towards the end. So, you know,
the other side of the
game.
whale.
Yeah. I need to put more time into the actual balloon trip mode, because to me that's more of the core of the game. It's less of a platformer since you don't have platforms to stand on like in the single player campaign, but it is more of testing you and your understanding of the physics in the balloons.
Okay. Daniel, what are your final thoughts on Balloon Kid?
I really enjoy the game. I quite like these sort of early Game Boy games that have a very limited scope, but are able to do some interesting things with that scope. And it's also interesting seeing how the sound in particular carries through the different Game Boy games developed by R&D1. So in some of the levels, such as in the forest level, you can really hear parts of Wario Land 1 and 2 in this game. So and so that was really cool. But and I also think it was
How
great.
do you mean you can hear parts?
Like, it just I think that R&D1's Game Boy games all sort of have an evolving sound, and they all sort of, there's certain bits that sound similar. So, and it's really hard for me to talk about that without really looking at some examples. But
okay,
when I played it, I could feel that it sounds similar. So I really enjoyed that too. And I agree with Adrian that Balloon Trip is really where the game comes into its own.
Okay. Wario fan, what are your final thoughts on Balloon Kid?
I thought it was really interesting that they made a level based game out of Balloon Fight compared to what it was originally, and that was to me the standout thing from it. And I do like the how connected the world feels. Like how you can tell that when you get to the end of one level, you can see bits of what the next level is going to be like.
Yeah. And yourself, do you have any final thoughts on Balloon Kid?
Generally speaking, I think someone described it as the original mech game, and I think that's kind of an appropriate description.
Yeah, who is that?
Because I wasn't the one that started it, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, I think that's appropriate because it is a game that works within a traditional platforming framework, sort of the same type of enemy design and stage progression that you are used to seeing in a Mario type game, but then does it with a really idiosyncratic engine or physics system such that everything is sort of amplified because it's much more difficult to just stay in one position or make a simple jump. So little distinctions in how things move or how your character interacts with any one piece of the environment really take on extra significance because of the just additional challenge of getting any one move correct.
The complexity of the momentum multiplies the difficulty of any challenge.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting, and I think that naturally it is very similar to the swimming mechanics in Mario games, but the reason I compare it to mech games is that they tend to also have that sort of complex momentum. So I feel like a good follow-up game to Balloon Kid is, oddly enough, Cybernator.
Ranger X.
Yeah, Ranger X would be appropriate as well.
All right. So that's all for that sake.
Wait.
Yeah?
There's something else I was thinking about. I don't really know if I wanted this for my bit, so that's why I left it out. But I just thought it was interesting that Adrian and Daniel thought that Balloon Trip was where the meat of the game was, because to me, I thought Balloon Trip was just there to throw a bone to say, hey, this is a Balloon Fight sequel. We're going to put this in just to reference the original.
Well, Daniel and Adrian, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the reason you feel that way, based on the arguments I've heard from you, is that Balloon Trip is the more difficult mode, so it stresses your knowledge of the game's systems more.
Yes. So, as I commented earlier, the single player, definitely on the easier side for the first couple levels. It picks up towards the end, but Balloon Trip is immediately hard, like right out of the gate, where you're navigating mostly instant death obstacles. So, and also the arrangement of those little star things. I don't know what to call them, sparks. I'm going to call them sparks from now on. The arrangements of those sparks and how they challenge you to move and weave over and around them which isn't as prevalent in the campaign.
There is also the fact that the scoring system is broken in the main game, but not in Balloon Trip, right?
I forget this game had a scoring system. Well, at least in the campaign, because like it's sort of just, it's kind of like in Mario, it's sort of just there.
If I remember correctly, I think the scoring system in Balloon Trip is a combination of two factors. It's the distance that you're traveling, and because the screen's auto-scrolling, it's, in that sense, it's sort of like a timer. So it's timer and also any balloons that you are able to get. Those two things add up together.
Yeah, and because it's also more of a arcadey style endless mode. You know, that's where you see the challenges naturally progress until you sort of Tetris style, where it gets harder and harder until you eventually die, and you see what your score is, see how far you got.
Yeah, I was with Wario Fan though. I also ignored that mode completely. I did not care to. It doesn't have any novel elements to it, or at least what I saw of it didn't. So it wasn't interesting to me.
You know, I think my perspective is that Balloon Trip was I really liked it on the NES because it was different than, you know, the main game for the NES, but I sort of see it as a background to the main game on the Game Boy.
Alright.
Yeah, it strikes me the same.